If our podcast is helping you with your mental health, Zach and I would be so grateful if you could hit the follow or subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts. It's a simple action, but it really helps a lot. Thank you. On the first day I walked into Zach's therapy room in my hometown of Dublin, Ireland, I was one seriously lost dude. I had no direction and no real knowledge of what I needed from life. Zach told me that he'd help me to find my authentic self, whatever that meant. 3 years later, I had made some serious changes, and Zach even helped me to get sober.
When I first met Stephen, he was a very lost soul, and I wasn't even sure to what degree the platform of therapy could help him. What followed was a journey to which I had the privilege to be part of, as I watched this young man dig deep and disrupt his old behaviours and beliefs. He eventually walked out of my room a changed man, and I believe he did find a more authentic self.
So despite all of my healing and growing, it's not over, because I'm back for more. This is one man
and his therapist. Good morning, Stephen.
Good morning, Zach.
It's been a while.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a hiatus.
Yeah. Time for reflection and other life events. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Fill me in. Tell me how things are with you.
Well, I've written a bit in the diary this morning because, because it's been a while since we've had a session. I guess when I was writing in the diary, I was like, I don't actually know what I want to kind of address today with Zach. I mean, there's like a number of things, but there's also... I'm just going to read what I wrote.
Okay.
I guess what I wrote is, I guess what I mean is, I'm not sure what I want to work on, or how indeed therapy will help me today. I suppose the way I have been with Rebecca since her return is worth mentioning. I think that I have been an arsehole, very quick to anger and react, taking things personally too quickly, without thinking them through, but also good things, how therapy is seeping into my life. So many things are happening because of it. And, the examples of that are, you said something a little while ago about, and it really stuck with me. It was about how you should always be giving, this is paraphrasing, always be giving more attention to your personal development than your work.
Yeah.
And I've really taken that to heart. And I'm now like, I'm going to my personal trainer every morning, getting up at 6:30. I go 5 mornings a week now. And all these things, it's so subtle the way therapy works, in the sense that you can't pinpoint a consequence directly back to any one moment necessarily in your head, although there obviously was one moment or a couple of moments that led to a consequence. But it bleeds in so beautifully, subtly, and then you're like, wow, I'm living this other existence, and I know that it's because of the therapy. Like, I know that I wouldn't be in this really good physical shape without having kind of talk things through with you. I know that I wouldn't be finding the balance that I am finding at the moment with my work-life balance. However, we often talk about, I often use that analogy of spinning plates. I suppose the one spinning plate, and I referenced it a minute ago, Rebecca, she's been away for like 6 weeks on and off, and she just returned a few days ago, and it's really difficult for me to have her back in the living space. Not that I don't love her to death and she's my best friend, but it's really jarring because I'd kind of become so comfortable in this little world that I'd created. So I suppose that's worth dwelling on today, because that's one of the plates of life that the relationship plate that is suffering at the moment.
Okay. So you talk about how when solo in the home space, you are so comfortable. So you describe that as your comfort. And yet when she returns and she infiltrates that space, it's now uncomfortable.
I guess it's a fair word.
It's probably not the accurate one. It's just to start you off. What you want to insert there?
Well, I guess it's not uncomfortable because I'm so comfortable in her presence, like, and God love Rebecca. She's the most easygoing wife in so many ways. Um, she doesn't really put many demands on me. So it's not really uncomfortable. Um, I'm very comfortable to be and do what I want. Really,
Not in
it's
that moment,
just
though. You said I'm being an asshole. Um,
yeah,
so so you're not in that moment comfortable.
yeah. I wasn't comfortable. I'm not comfortable with. I guess she kind of came back and then was like, and I'd kept the house very very well, but like in my own way. um, in the sense that I'm very practical, and also we haven't finished restoring the apartment like really. So like I'm not like that pushed on the aesthetics of it because it's unfinished. So I'm like, it is what it is. For me, it's about living with ease. So for example, I had my protein powder up on the kitchen counter for ease of access to put it into the Vitamix. I'm all about time management these days. So I'm like, okay, where's the best place that can be for it to be able to go into the Vitamix in as little time of my life taken up as possible. But for Rebecca, a big tub of protein powder sitting out in the kitchen isn't very attractive. So that goes away. And there was lots of little comments about how I had the space, and I was like, well, I'm all about efficiency, whereas she's more about the aesthetics. So things like that, I was like, just fuck off. um,
You said that, or
but
you just thought it?
I actually said it yesterday, which I really I hate. I hate when I get to that place and Rebecca is it rarely happens.
Hmm. It rarely
But when
happens
I
that you get to that
the
sort
fuck
of
off, yeah,
heavy language, aggressive language.
yeah, and it's like it's hard for me to say because Rebecca has is adamantly against um uh kind of any sort of aggressive language, and it's interesting. She was brought up by two people who never shouted at each other, and I wasn't.
Hmm.
Um, and so there's different levels of kind of tolerance for that
Yeah.
between yeah. So anyway, yeah, I did, and so yeah, I don't like that about myself that I get to that place, but
What was the outcome of you cursing at her? How did that play out? What was the conclusion?
I'm well, it's kind of been like waves the last couple of days, waves of like heightened kind of annoyance with each other and then apologizing. I'm generally quite quick to apologize. Um, the final outcome so far today is that there was a minor argument again this morning to do with the dog, but we left each other in a good place. I came here really feeling connected to her. So
Okay.
I don't know if that
So,
answers your question.
well, yeah. I mean, I'm just exploring. I hear that you're regretful about cursing at her. I get that. I hear that you're saying I'm quick to apologize, and I sort of said sorry pretty much soon after. Okay, I get that. What I want to encourage for both of you, or at least for you, I can't really speak for your wife, or speak even to your wife, just but for you, let me just suggest to you that when things like this come up for you as a couple, deal with them in the now, immediately. Try and address what's going on in that moment to its conclusion. Sort it out. If at all possible, be in the immediacy of what's happening and stop everything and discuss it and get it to a conclusion to where it doesn't happen again, or it might happen again. Maybe it will happen again, and maybe it'll happen a number of times, but at least if each time it happens, if you guys are addressing it and dealing with it in its fullness, this is probably the most efficient way for a couple to work through their troubles. Because you know the alternative, Steve. It's passive aggressive, long term, silent treatment, inner resentment, yada yada. The list goes on. Um, how do you feel about that thought of the immediacy of dealing with it?
Yeah, I mean, I completely hear you. I suppose my question to you is because like we have a very kind of routine way of patching things up in with words, um, as in it's normally the words "let's be friends" or "I don't want to be fighting," and then we'll talk through, and that might lead to another slight disagreement. Or,
Yeah.
but is there a better, like, I don't know, maybe there's no answer. I mean, but what should you be when you're dealing with something in the moment? What should you be searching for in terms of an outcome to kind of both feel at peace?
Well, I think both of you are dealing with your disagreements more than well enough. I hear that one of you at some point, relatively soon after a Barney, after a fallout, will go, okay, let's be friends, let's make up. I don't want to be fighting. So you have your one liners that you use. I think every couple has them in one form or another. I think therefore, if you never did therapy ever again, if the process of therapy wasn't there as a support, I'm sure you two would work on to communicate more than well enough on your journey together. This game of life that you decided to play together rather than play separately. You know, remember our relationship journey is about two people who think, hey, I think we can do this journey together better and easier than to do it separately. Let's lean in and be together on this. So I know I know you'll do fine. You communicate well with each other. If I was to suggest an additional one liner that you guys can use or that you can use, I mean, it would be nice to hear phrases like, okay, I have to own that. So, what happened there a few
Mm-hmm.
moments ago when I said X or I said Y or when I told you that, okay, I just need to own that. That was me. Sorry. So, there's something quite powerful about the phrase to own it. I have to own that. I'm going to own that. Or saying to someone, I think you should own that. That was on you. You know, the ownership of your actions, the more undesirable actions, is a powerful thing. It's powerful to own it because in naming it and owning it, I think it sort of dilutes it down to a more empowering place, would be my thoughts on that. How's that landing with
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think, um, yeah, I think it can be a difficult thing to say, something like that.
For you?
Yeah, probably more for me than for Rebecca. I think I remember you saying to me years ago, you're, you're a pretty stubborn person, or there's a stubbornness in you, or you said something along those lines. Like you weren't making a declaration, but you alluded to me being stubborn. I
Right.
can't remember. I guess I can't cast aspersions on uh, your methods of. So probably that, as a therapist, that's probably not a good thing to say. You're very stubborn. So I think you said it in some sort of way where I kind of picked up on it.
Okay. Yeah.
um, um, but like, but whatever that stubbornness was at that time, I couldn't understand. I couldn't see it. Um, um, uh, uh, I didn't know that I was a stubborn person, and someone kind of alluding to the fact that I might be was very weird to me and alien. However, obviously, over the years, through therapy, through self development work, all the rest, I've got to know myself, and I am incredibly stubborn. um,
Do
and
you
so,
remember at the time being somewhat offended by the remark?
yeah, I think like hurt, offended, maybe a bit like, what? Like, how am I stubborn? Um, um, but I wasn't really used to looking at myself from a particularly critical place, apart from being, I guess at the time, maybe unconsciously self hating or self-disliking kind of internal chatter, but I wasn't making these types of declarations about myself. I am stubborn. I am weak. I am whatever. But anyway,
Yeah.
I am stubborn, and I guess the more I recognize it, the more I can work to be softer around it. And Rebecca is much quicker to apologize and much quicker to humble when she recognizes that she was in the wrong.
Yeah. And let's discourage the I ams, the I am stubborn. Let's just soften it and say, um, I have stubborn streaks. I can be stubborn in my behavior. Let's not own that too strongly either. It's one of those elements of your character which you have to work with. And I have to say, I think your stubborn streak, as it were, at times serves you very well. I think it helps with your determination. It helps with your consistent ability. I mean, I think it probably takes a stubborn person to get up at 6:30 a.m. every morning, pardon me, and see their personal trainer. That's not just a determined, dedicated person. There has to be maybe a stubborn element to that. So, you work with it. Sometimes it's a difficulty, sometimes not, but, you work with it. And so just back to, we were talking about how to communicate better with our partners, and how for you guys to communicate better. I was suggesting using phrases like, I have to own that, as an empowering thing to do. So just to bring you back to that point, that was one suggestion that you can maybe add into your vocabulary when it comes to finding resolve, or fighting to the death on on passionate topics between the two of you. But owning it is something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
And if we go back to your opener, which was, when my wife went away, I found a solo comfort when she returned. And again, I'm paraphrasing or interpreting here. You said she sort of infiltrated my space or disrupted my equilibrium that I had created, and arrived back with critique about protein powders and domesticity and layouts. So this aggravated you. This got you upset. So if we look at, just never mind the feedback of agreement or disagreement about layouts of kitchen counters, but just the idea that you were upset or put out by your own wife returning to her own house, into her own space. What do we take from that? Have you further thoughts on what's going on there? What could be happening with that?
That's interesting. Yeah. It's very powerful the way you phrased that. Into her own house, into her own space. It sank in. It hit me, actually. I think because there is an ambiguity around kind of our lives, and obviously our existence is kind of unusual in the sense that we have moved quite a lot in the last few years, and we've just both finished restoring this property that we now live in. I paid for most of the apartment in terms of, the financials, in terms of the work that was done. And I genuinely, and I really mean this, I do not feel like I own that apartment more than Rebecca does. Like, just because of monetary, because as far as I'm concerned, we're married. We entered into this, I believe, very sacred commitment to each other.
Yeah.
And that's far deeper than monetary value, property value, ownership of material things. however attached I do get to material things, which is something I want to work on as I grow older. But anyway, that's not the point. I see it as our home. Like it's 100% ours.
Is
Ours, 50-50, ours. Doesn't even, the numbers aren't even worth mentioning 50-50 because it's so much deeper than that for me. However, Rebecca, I perceive and I hear sometimes, doesn't feel the same level of ownership that I have on it. And whether that be the monetary thing or kind of a soul connection. And the interesting thing is that the apartment it's a beautiful space, and it's beautiful because of Rebecca. Because if it had been me who was in charge of the way it was going to look, I wanted like polished concrete floors on the entrance and
with
kind of
with
magic
protein
that,
with protein powder all over the place.
yeah. um, so like really, and she's so clever when it comes to this stuff, and like it's
Yeah.
beautiful because of her. It's an expression of her beautiful mind,
Well, Stephen,
with
let
me
me let
kind of
me
agreeing.
let me let me just jump in if I can.
Sorry.
When no, don't apologize. I I let me ask you: have you asked her in what manner does she feel unequal in the ownership of the home? Has she explained? Has she given you an understanding as to where that's coming from, or if that is financial, spiritual, sort of some other psychological element to it? Has she given you an explanation?
Yeah, it's primarily the financial thing.
Okay,
Um,
as in there was an unequal purchase amount put down on the table as a couple to buy the house.
yeah, and
Okay,
this extends into our marriage on a, because at the moment she's not working and I support her because she's working towards becoming like working full as an actor and doing other creative things. And so there's this inequity in that regard. And no matter what I say or do in this way, in when it comes, I can't convince her that I am okay with this. And then, of course, sometimes I do have little moments where I say, "Well, I paid for this," so I do kind of uh, add to her paranoia around it, or I forget the word, but anyway.
well, I hear that
So
you try. I hear that you try to convince her, that I'm okay with this, and I'm guessing she knows you're okay with it, but I'm just also guessing she's not okay with it. She has her pride. She has her own autonomy and identity that maybe doesn't align well with what she feels is the financial inequality. Hmm?
yeah, for sure she doesn't.
Yeah,
But what choice? Like she's really working towards, and I see her working towards what she wants to do, and she is a hard working person, and I don't, like. So I'm completely willing to give her that breathing space to get to where she wants to be because that's the partnership we're in. It
yeah,
might not be everyone's cup of tea, but for us it's working, and or we're doing our best with with the paths that we're on.
sure.
Um, and but I do see, yes, that she suffers because of her own kind of lack of, is autonomy like, I don't know,
Yeah, or
independence, I guess, when it comes
yeah,
to this world
yeah,
of finances.
exactly. And I think in every couple, I don't think I've ever met a couple who sort of earn 50-50 exactly equally. If you're trying to run a home, raise children, um, support another person's more heavy burdened business, there's times in both of your lives when someone has to step back and someone has to step forward to support the other person in their maybe the new chapter of a business venture, whatever it might be. So um, that's never static. That's ever changing. As a matter of interest, is both of your names on the deeds of your house?
Yeah.
Oh, good. So I mean, you're as you're as equal. You have offered and given as equal a partnership as you possibly can to your wife in regards to the home. There's nothing else you can really do to sort of create a sense of equality about it more than what you've done already. Yeah.
in fact, I think she's like more senior to me, and
All right.
because we bought it in her country, and so I
All
think
right. Yeah.
she's slightly more named than me or something. I can't remember the
Right.
legalities, but yeah.
But then we have to bring up then the question of the moments when you choose to pull the money card on her, in moments when you say, "Yeah, but I paid for that," and you're admitting there's an admission from you that there's moments when you sort of maybe utilize the financial power piece, in some of your conversations or some of your scenarios. Can you give me a context or two when that happens, just so I get a sense of what that's about?
Um, I suppose like, well, I can't think of any specific moments off the top of my head, but I can think of like, moments where, for example, um, there would be uh, kind of conversations about our spending, um, and then I would say something like, for example, I'm trying to do a new thing where I manage our money better, where I take a certain amount of money out of my company each month, and I give her an amount and me an amount, and then we kind of. And I said to her yesterday, look, if you do the shopping from now on, then, or whenever you do the shopping, then you just text me the amount and I send you half of the amount. So then you're not down on money. We're both contributing. She's like, stop patronizing me. And I'm like, well, I'm not patronizing that. Sorry, that's not an example of what you're talking about.
But it's still, but Stephen, it's actually still a good example, because in it, I can hear both sides. I can hear your good intention to create more financial freedom for your wife, but I can also hear how she feels patronized because she still has to message you and tell you what half the amount is. She still has to ask for it. She still has to inform you about the decision, or to, again, to revert back to you about the money in some way. No one's wrong here, but I can just see how, with good intention, it's just haven't maybe fine tuned that completely right just yet. You say, I want to bring into the home a certain amount of money for her and for me, more than what I've been doing. Um, but surely this is, I'm just bringing more money to the home for us both. And then we're just splitting it.
Yeah.
This is, there's I would suggest that when a person feels disempowered financially, or feels an inequality, an imbalance in the power play in a relationship, and in this case we're talking about the money power, that you cannot underestimate how hypersensitive a person can be about the subtlety of the language of how the money is discussed. Because for a person who's in that position of disempowerment, it's a very, very sensitive space. So you've got to be very, very, very extra careful as to how you communicate your good intentions, you know? So it can open with, so guess what? I want to bring, um, more wages into our home for us both. You've got to open up with the inclusive language, and then talk about the splits and work it all out. But to carry that extra awareness in yourself of just being really careful about your chosen words as to how you discuss the money, I think that would be worthwhile doing. I think it would be good for you to keep that extra awakeness in your head about that, because, hear me on this, that it can be quite a sensitive land for the other person who's in receipt of that information when they're in that position of, you know, financial disempowerment. You with me on it?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Now I'm feeling like a complete asshole because,
Oh,
no, because I'm really hearing what you're saying, and I'm thinking about back to my language, and I really haven't been putting myself in her shoes enough in terms of being sensitive around this. I am a bit, I don't know if the right word is, but like a bit too male. I don't like to put
hmm.
that cast negative aspersions upon us as a sex, but it feels very male the way I'm behaving when it comes to this, or very domineering actually. So that's not just necessarily male, very domineering.
Yeah.
In the sense that, for example, today I said, so because this is a new system, I'm thinking, because I want to leave as much money in my company as possible instead of taking it out.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to just be responsible, actually, for the first time in my life with money. It's like really
Yeah.
responsible.
So
I'm
this is
really,
great. I
because
mean, overall, this is a great thing you're doing. You're really, as you say, owning your sort of your financial identity is something you're really getting to grips with. So I mean, let's pull
yeah, at
back on the
40 years
asshole
of age.
remark. And we'll pull back on the
Well,
asshole remark and let's lean in on the well done you. Okay?
well, thank you. I mean, I hear you that yes, it's a good thing to be doing. I am 40, so it's about time. But many people, I guess, to be kind to myself, many people, I guess, go through their entire lives and don't manage to understand fiscal responsibility. So
Yeah.
at least I'm getting there.
You're getting
Um,
there. And let me say to you that, as you and I understand that you do a lot of things solo. Okay? Right? You do a lot of you grew up as an only child. Your industry um, as a sole trader, self-employed sort of artist performer. Um, you sit in studios on your own a lot. You've
yeah,
gone out and done gigs by yourself a lot. Not that you're not a team player, but you live your life in quite a solo in a lot of solo ways. So your default, if you're walking the dog in the morning and you're contemplating how I can empower myself financially to really get a handle on this new income, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and you're brainstorming that excitedly with yourself, that's all fantastic, right? The little extra we're adding in today is maybe remember to come home and sit with Rebecca and go, I had these ideas, what do you think? So rather than saying, I've come up with a new plan and I'm going to bring this home and we're going to do this, isn't that great? It might be nice to say, I had some ideas about a new financial plan. Can I share them with you? What's your thoughts?
yeah, yeah,
Okay. And then that
yeah,
has such a multi layered positive impact because you forget that she brings genuinely other good ideas to the table. And it's only when you put it out there will you hear them. Secondly, you gift her the empowerment of the shared responsibility and power of the new financial ideas. And those, even just those two elements alone, of which we could flesh out more, but they're the two main ones. That's just a gift to both of you. So just bringing her in earlier on it. And I mean, sometimes a partner might turn around and go, oh, that'll wreck my head. Can you sort that out? Yeah, whatever you think is best, I'll run with that. And that's okay too. But isn't it nice to have the choice?
for sure.
Mm, yeah.
Um, yeah, I really hear you on this, and I think that, yeah, I mean, just it's amazing the power of words and how we choose to use them. I mean, I'm becoming awake again, just being with you for this time so far today, because I guess, yeah, I have been a little bit closed. It's funny, you don't recognize what when you have a little hiatus from the work, and then you kind of think, oh, I'm fine, what's there to work on? And then you go, ah, yeah.
Mm,
um,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, this morning, like, just to go back to what I was trying to say, this morning, my use of language was completely inappropriate, really, now that I hear what you're saying, because I said, I'm going to give myself X amount and I'm going to give you X amount. And then that amount is to do me and to do you until this date. And I won't be able to send you any more until that date. Um, and I suppose that's very like, well, this is the box I've drawn, and you're going to live inside that box whether you like it or not. Um,
And again,
so
I understand that you now can see how that could be that can be the way it can be read by someone who feels disempowered. But let's remember your good intention. Your good intention was to say, "Hey, I've got this great idea.
look how I think I can do more for us. So I mean, the good intentions are there, but the new self-awareness that we bring today in this conversation means that you're now going to do what? How are you going to readdress this? Tell me what your actions are after this session.
Well, just while you were talking there, just before you asked me that question, I was thinking, after this session, I'm going to call Rebecca and check with her that what I have suggested as a plan, what I have laid down as a plan earlier, it fits into what she sees as a viable kind of plan, I guess.
Okay. And I think that will work well. I think, potentially that will work well. May I give you an optional plan B, which I'm not pushing, but I would like you to have it in your awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You could also say to her, did some good work in therapy today. And, in relation to the new financial plan that I pitched, that I suggested, that I've been pushing for, what I'd like to do is scrap it. How about you and I sit down, put on the kettle? I'd like to get your input and maybe start again and see how together we can come up with the best plan rather than me giving you my version. Can we go back and start that again? Would you be on for it?
Yeah.
And that, now, I honestly think your plan A is very helpful. And I think my plan B potentially is also helpful in a different way. So you just have a think about it. It's your money. It's your marriage.
Yeah.
Have a think. Do have a think about that. And what I'm going to do with you today is I'm going to call the session short today. I'm going to bring the session to an end. But I'm bringing it to an end at this point because I think this is a nice point of remembrance. You've now got an action to go and follow through on, and a very particular thing to focus and concentrate on. So let's bring session to an end on this and say, I know you'll do great with this. It's predictable the type of feedback you're going to give next time on this one. There's a real sense of how much better an outcome is inevitable in your report next time you're in session. But fingers crossed for you, it goes well and you come up with an even greater plan together. And I just wish you luck with that this week. And I'll catch up with you soon.
Thanks, Zach.
Okay, you take care.
Disclaimer. The opinions expressed by our presenters are entirely their own. We believe in fostering an environment that values intellectual diversity, enabling our presenters to share their unique insights and viewpoints. It is crucial for our audience to recognise that the opinions articulated during the course of this programme are those of the individual presenters and do not reflect or represent any other individuals, agencies or organisations. If you wish to contact Zach Powers, please email him at bergenpsychological.com. If you wish to contact Stephen, please go to stevendaltonvo.com.